Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Thanks for joining us. Kicking off tonight, of all the self-inflicted wounds of this election cycle, and there have been plenty, it's hard to find any worse than Congressman Jim Moran, who appeared to be demeaning the 24 years of honorable military service of his opponent, Colonel Patrick Murray. Play the tape.
What they do is they find candidates, usually stealth candidates, that haven't been in office, haven't served and performed in any kind of public service. My opponent is typical, frankly.
Now, for a 10-term congressman who could complain that a 24-year military veteran, quote, hasn't performed any kind of public service, it's an insult. It's not only an insult to Colonel Murray and to every other American serving in the United States military, but it's an insult to every single one of us who know what the military is doing for us. Now, fair enough. That statement alone might have been excused as some kind of slip of a tongue or a misstatement, but then the congressman went on to say this about Colonel Murray.
And of course, for 24 years, he's taken a government check because, frankly, the military still is part of the federal government, and yet his principal platform is to cut government spending.
Again, Congressman Moran trivializes military service by saying that our troops are just like any other bureaucrats in the federal dole. It's a comment that's frankly so asinine and insulting that no rebuttal would or could be acceptable. Now, the relevance of this attack to the whole elections is what it says about those who've been in Congress for just too long a period. Apparently, if you've been in Congress for 20 years, like Mr. Moran, you really do begin to think of yourself as above normal mortals, particularly above the check-grabbing grunts in the military. Now, as for scoreboard, we put the public service of honorable military personnel far above that of politicians. In the first place, congressmen don't put their lives on the line every single day. They also don't give up their personal freedoms, as you're required to do in the military. And our troops know how to take orders. Now, the first thing you learn in the Marine Handbook is the chain of command. Our representatives seem to have forgotten that their chain of command begins with the folks they're supposed to represent. Now, an occasional vote that's at odds with the mood of the constituents, that's understandable. But to do it as consistently as this Congress has on bailouts, stimulus spending, health care, cap and trade, a whole host of other things, that's really what is fueling the voter discontent in this country. And while the insult to the military may be the biggest single stumble that Congressman Moran makes in his campaign, we suspect that if he is voted out, it will be more because he's gone rogue, abandoning the true interests of his constituents. But let's ask the man who was on the receiving end of Mr. Moran's insult, Republican candidate for Virginia's 8th Congressional District, retired Colonel Patrick Murray. Colonel Murray, it is hard for me to hold back my anger. I have to admit it. I can't imagine what you felt when you first heard it. Tell us.
Well, David, thank you. It's great to be on tonight. Listen, this isn't about me. This is about all of the veterans, the service members, the active duty service members who are serving in harm's way overseas. It's about their family members. Imagine a family member who has lost a service member, a soldier, in support, in defense of their country, to find out from a sitting congressman that that's not public service and that they were just drawing a paycheck. And moreover, David, this is a congressman who has what I believe to be the most hallowed ground in America. And I'm talking about Arlington National Cemetery right in his district.
Right, absolutely. Now, has he called you to try to apologize directly for that comment?
Well, no, he hasn't, David, and if he intends to, I think his flash-to-bang times run a little bit long. What he said is, well, I was misquoted, I was taken out of context. Well, it's their tape. We just pulled it off their website. So I think there's a pattern here. It's not just the comments about me. There's a pattern when it goes back to how he votes to support our troops in Afghanistan, which he votes not to support them in Afghanistan, and a number of other things that is it's just part and parcel of how you articulated it earlier, that there's an arrogance of office, and he is a career politician who has lost touch with what's happening in his district and in the United States.
All right. Now, he has issued, or his people have issued a sort of statement, not necessarily a retraction of what he said, but he talked about how supportive he is of the military, and then he said this: the point Congressman Moran was making in that Northern Virginia is a region that prides itself on local civic engagement, serving in the PTA, on local boards, working with nonprofits to help those less fortunate, and also serving in local elected office. Well, to which I would say, what the hell is a military guy except somebody who's serving in a nonprofit, trying to help others who can't help themselves? What the heck do you think our guys over in Afghanistan are doing? I mean, again, it's hard for me to contain my anger here, and I don't direct it at you specifically, but if that's his only response, that's not a response.
I agree with you, and I honor the public service, the community service of everyone whom you just talked about, PTA and everyone else. It's important, it matters, but I will not apologize for my military service. It was the great honor of my life to serve my country for 24 years in the Army in uniform, and I'm proud of that. And I believe that Jim Moran needs to take a look at what he's saying with regard to soldiers and all service members who are serving their country.
And, you know, look, I admire the PTA. I've served in a PTA before. I admire these local boards and the service that community workers do. But don't you think their service is at least on level? I mean, I would put the military service above that, but I certainly wouldn't put it below that.
Well, I think that's a good point. And listen, there's a lot of other reasons, David, why I believe people are ready to look elsewhere for their representative. And it's not just these comments. Recently, we need some certainty. We need to put the ground beneath small businesses' feet, back beneath their feet, so that we can start to grow our economy, hire people, and expand. Jim Moran is openly telling us he's not going to do anything differently. Small Business Entrepreneurial Council gave him a 0, David. 22 votes they assess every congressman on. He got everyone wrong. Now, I don't know how you do that unless you're anti-business. And that's what is also a concern for I think, the Jim Moran camp this year.
Well, by the way, are those issues, are the dollar and cents issues the ones that are most important to voters right now, or did those comments we showed you earlier have the bigger impact?